Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to introduce you to a woman that I met not long ago through the Pittsburgh Human Resources Association. Her name is Kristen O'Hara, and she is the Director of Continuing Education and WEDnetPA Administrator at IUP. Good morning, Kristen.
Good morning. It's nice to touch base with you again.
Yeah, thanks so much for being willing to do this. I reached out to Kristen because she and I had a great conversation when we were talking at PHRA. And I told her, more people need to know about what you do. It's just this amazing program. Really, so much of her work exists to help businesses in the southwestern PA and all of PA area, I guess. But I'll let her tell you more about it. It's just a wonderful program, and I thought I'd love to hear more about it. I had some questions myself, and I just want to share all of this information with you all, and please do reach out. This is a fantastic resource, and she is a delightful person, as you will see throughout the course of this interview. So Kristen, maybe you could just start by sharing a little bit about the work that you do at IUP.
Okay, so I work with the WEDnetPA program. It's the Workforce and Economic Development Network of Pennsylvania, referred to as WEDnetPA. I've been the administrator for the last 2.5 years. In addition to that, IUP has 2 e-learning vendors, and we have over 1,200 online non-credit courses and certificate programs. And they're all self-paced. So a student can go online, register for a course, take the course. When they're done, the vendor emails me the grade, and as long as they've successfully completed it, IUP issues the certificate of completion or recognition for the program. So we get about 150, 200 students a year that we help with different types of training. It can be anything from what I refer to as a one-off, you need a course in Excel, to you want to completely change your career and become a phlebotomist, where the vendor will work with you. You'll do your coursework all online, and then they'll work with you to place you in an externship site when you're finished with the program. We also do customized training. So if there's some kind of training that you need, you want to bring it to your facility or any of the IUP campuses, Indiana, Punxsutawney, North Point, or Pittsburgh East, we're happy to do so. Every day is a little different, so it's good.
Yeah, that's nice. I like to have some variety too. So specifically WEDnetPA, you told me that it's been around since 1999, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, so since 1999, WEDnetPA has essentially been reimbursing training costs for companies. And what would you say is the big why? Why is it that this program exists, and why is it, when you told me about it, I left being like, every single person should know about this. So I want to give you an opportunity to share that with these people.
Perfect. The program was designed to create a better skilled Pennsylvania workforce. And I often tell companies, when you're looking at it, yeah, there's your standard trainings that every company does, but use it to do that training you always wanted to do, but you couldn't afford, because this is the opportunity to get reimbursed for the training. And it's just a phenomenal program for training reimbursement. And it's geared specifically for manufacturers, technology companies, primary hospitals, and corporate bank locations. They get both types of funding, essential skills and what's called advanced technology/technical skills. Under essential skills, you'll find things like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, management, supervision, leadership, quality assurance, customer service, sales, and the list goes on and on. And a company can be reimbursed up to $450 per employee, with a cap of $75,000 per fiscal year that they can ask for. And the year runs from July 1st to June 30th. And then under the AT/TS, it's anything that adds a technical skill. They broadened it for the current fiscal year. It could be things like CAD, CAM, some of the more advanced Adobe things. It can be electronics, a lot of more technical manufacturing things that were previously ES are now AT, geometric dimensions, GD&T intolerance, GD&T advanced. There's a lot of really cool stuff. And then computer related things, so somebody's taking a class in CompTIA or ITIL. There's lots of different options that fall under, but it's anything that adds a new skill to the person. It can be eligible for reimbursement. And it's a cap of $850 a person, with a maximum request of $50,000 per fiscal year. And you can actually have somebody that does both.
I was just about to ask that. Okay.
It doesn't happen very often, and I always let companies know they can do it, but you could actually have someone that gets training under ES and under the technical side, they can be reimbursed for both.
Okay.
To be eligible for the program, the company has to be a Pennsylvania-based company.
Okay.
Their turnover rate for the previous, from let's say they applied today, so from today's date to last year's date, January 6th to January 6th, or 7th, I'm sorry, January 7th, it has to be under 25%. As long as the turnover is under 25%, we're good. And the employees receiving the training have to be full-time employees making at least $10.88 an hour, and that's 150% of minimum wage.
Okay.
Minimum wage goes up, that $10.88 an hour will go up as well.
Okay. So Kristen, if a company isn't officially based in Pennsylvania, but they have like a headquarters here and they do a lot of business here, are they able to qualify or no?
Yes, if they have a physical location here in Pennsylvania, even if they have offices in other states, only the office here in PA would be eligible. And I have that quite frequently.
Okay.
Companies that, the offices in Oregon and Massachusetts and PA, and that's great, but only the PA employees can be reimbursed. And they need to be a Pennsylvania resident as well. So if somebody is here and they end up having a West Virginia address as their home address, they're not going to be eligible for reimbursement.
Okay, that's also good to know. Okay, yeah, great.
Twice, so that's why.
So what kinds of companies enroll and how can they get the most out of the program?
We get a lot of manufacturers. They really want to target the manufacturing sector, and hopefully we see, a continued increase in manufacturing. Of course, right now, the manufacturer's biggest challenge is they need employees, of course, to fill the positions.
Yeah.
But we hear that from a lot of industries, not just manufacturing. But manufacturing is the biggest. Technology companies seem to be the ones, to me, the most that don't realize that they're eligible.
Right.
So, just as I'm out and about everywhere, meeting people, networking, is just, finding out what they are, saying, hey, guess what? You could be reimbursed. You do training. And if you do, here's this great opportunity to be reimbursed for it if you meet the criteria. Now, if a company does have a turnover rate that's over 25%, and if they can justify why it was over 25%, then there's always a possibility that an exception could be granted.
So hypothetically speaking, if they did have a turnover rate that were higher than that, but they could demonstrate like the trainings that we're investing in, like we know that this is a problem and we're trying to solve it, would that be an example of a time when you might consider an exception?
It would. The exception is granted by the statewide director. So I have to send it to him with the documentation and say, hey, Tom, here's, this great company, they're interested in funding, their turnover rate's at X, but here's a detailed explanation to you as to why, and then it's at his discretion.
Gotcha.
Whether or not he grants the exception.
Mm-hmm.
But he always tries very hard to help the companies as often as he can within reason. And we really appreciate that.
Yeah, I imagine there's a degree to which self-awareness or any sort of proactive intention to correct the problem probably goes a long way.
Absolutely. And it depends on what kind of training they're looking to do. I want to see something a little more in depth that you're doing. Management training, service training, quality training, something that's going to truly add a skill. It's a great program. It's a training reimbursement program. There's no cost to the company other than they have to have somebody designated to enter all of the information. They build a training plan, sign a contract, and then I award the funding, and then they invoice against basically what's in their bank account.
Okay.
But they do have to use the money that they're given. And if they're not, then I can take the money away and reallocate it to another company. Or if a company runs out of money and if funding is available, I could increase the award for it.
Okay.
Just depends on where we are and how much money I have at any given point, because every year it's different. The allocations are never the same.
Yeah. I remember you telling me when we first met, there's no strings attached, but you have to use the money or it will go to somebody else.
Exactly. It's that little thing. You have to actually do the training to get reimbursed for the training. And we can only reimburse you up to what you spend. So just because the cap is $850 for the technical training, it doesn't mean you're going to get $850 back. It has to be whatever you paid for the training. So, like I said, great program. Just, want to shout it from the rooftops because it's a great way to pay for the training. A company can use any training provider that they choose to complete the training, whatever their training needs are. But we're here to help however we can, whatever we can do to help a company. Absolutely. And I do go out and visit with all the companies every year, and especially first-time companies. I will have a meeting this afternoon with somebody who's never had funding before. So we're going to sit down and talk a little bit just to make sure they're clear.
Wonderful.
And they do. The other important thing is they that companies need to know is they are required to provide the full social security number for every employee, and it's all entered into a secure database. But the state needs it for tracking purposes. So that is a requirement, because sometimes companies will like, oh, I don't want to do that. And I'm sorry, but we can't provide funding without it, because you're going to need it on the back end. So
yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. This is exactly what I was hoping for. All the details, let people know all the information, everything that goes into it.
yes.
They can make a decision. So one question I had, Kristen, I was on the WEDnetPA website.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the people that I've been talking with are all the way out in Philly. Mm-hmm. So would they still, can you explain the process of applying would you still be the point of contact? It seems like there are lots and lots of WEDnetPA.
Correct. There are lots of WEDnetPA partners across the state. And when the company fills out their application, they can choose whichever university they want to work with. It's at their discretion, but I can work with anybody in the state. It doesn't matter their geographic location. I have companies in Erie, Somerset, Pittsburgh, South, you name it, Berlin. I have them all over the place, Indiana, Blairsville. So the location doesn't matter. And it's the company's discretion, like I said, who they choose to work with as a partner. Mm-hmm. And if they, work with somebody 1 year and then they decide that they're not happy and they want to switch, that's solely at the company's discretion to change their partners from year to year. But of course, we do our very best to do the best for them. So we hope that if they do partner with us, they'll stay with us well into the future, because we have a really good rapport with the companies that we do work with. And they know that I'm always around and I'm always willing to help. And if you need me to sit with you 5 times till you get it, I will absolutely do that. I have a couple of companies that had a little bit of problems with invoicing, and now they're good. They're doing fine. But that first year, they were just, I think, scared to make a mistake. And I'm like, it's okay. I can fix it. But a little scared. So I was like, would it be better? So I just went and sat with them and walked them through it, even though I do send them a how-to guide of the basics with screenshots of everything they should see and be doing that we created. I absolutely will, go above and beyond to help a company.
That's wonderful. And it is the truth. I've had jobs in the past where I'm going through a manual and there might be screenshots and stuff, but it's not the same as having that human contact. So that's awesome that you do that for people.
Yeah, that's good. And, and it helps build that relationship as well. And I absolutely love doing what I do. So I'm always willing to help them however I can.
That's awesome. So are there any deadlines or important dates coming up for folks that are wanting to get some trainings going in fiscal year 2019?
Well, we're currently in the 18-19 fiscal year. And February is what we call reallocation month. And that's when money can be taken away from a company or funding can be increased. But we can accept an application at any point during the
great.
year. I get a lot of companies that pop up in March and April. I'm not quite sure why, but that happens every year. And then for the new fiscal year, 19-20, the application to apply starts June 1st.
Okay.
So June 1st, you can apply for the next fiscal year, but we can still accept and help people for the current fiscal year.
Great.
They just have to go online. They can go to our website, iup.edu/extended, and there's a WEDNet link on the lower right-hand side. Click on it, and it takes you to all the different information that you need to get started. You have questions, my contact information is in there. Just give me a call or send me an email, and I'll happily walk you through whatever it is that you need. That's what
okay.
But I'm here to guide you and keep you on the right path, because everybody gets busy and this all sounds great and wonderful, and then everything else takes priority, and then it's my job to steer you back to say, okay, now did this training take place? Let's invoice, because it's your money that you're getting back, so let's help you get reimbursed for what you've already spent.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a great program, and obviously when you invest in your employees, they typically will give more back to you in the long term, so it's a win-win.
Absolutely. Well, that, Kristen, is exactly what made me so interested in this. I had heard from the Allegheny Conference at a big lunch event that they did a few years ago about the desperate need of companies, especially in the southwestern PA area, to retain employees better. So essentially we're training. We have so many colleges and universities in this area, and we're educating young people. We're training them for a few years at our companies, and then they're going elsewhere. And just this desperate need to have 20-somethings, but even more importantly, 30 and 40-somethings that we are retaining to take on leadership roles in these companies as our boomers retire.
Absolutely.
This huge deficit. So it sounded to me when you and I were talking like this is a really excellent tool to have in the tool belt for companies that are looking at employee retention over time, succession plans. It seems like this would be a really, really great resource for folks that are trying to make sure that they are growing steadily and stably in the long run.
Absolutely. And the other thing to mention too is that companies are eligible 2 years in a row or 3 out of 5 years. So you can't get funding every single year, but either 2 years in a row or 3 out of 5. And then each year that you apply, you have to do a new inquiry verifying what your current turnover rate is and the size of your company, because sometimes that, if you're lucky, that will change from one to the next, and you'll be a much larger company the next time you apply for funding. And you can add to or take away from your training plan at any point during the year.
Okay.
So, ideally, give me a heads up if you're doing that. And I'm usually in pretty close contact with most companies anyway, and I usually know from our conversations what's going on. But sometimes, things change or directives change from above, and they want you doing X instead of Y, and that's okay. I get it, but just so I'm in the loop, so I know.
Well, I heard you say earlier that part of what is so wonderful about WEDnetPA is that you get to empower people to do the training that they've always wanted to do but felt like they couldn't afford. And I'm curious if there's any trainings that stand out in your mind or any success stories that stand out in your mind that you're like, that was a really cool allocation of resources through the program.
Yeah, there's some companies that have taken advantage of practical problem-solving training. It's offered through Catalyst Connection, and that's one with some of our smaller manufacturers that they didn't feel was quite within their budget. And then, when I said, hey, you can be fully reimbursed for this if you do it, once I found out what they were talking price-wise, and they were very excited, and we've had several companies do that particular training. So it's been a very good thing. And then, there's always lots of leadership and, training along those lines too, where companies get so excited.
That's wonderful. That's awesome. Well, Kristen, is there anything else you'd like to say about WEDnetPA before we close out?
No, just that it's a greatly underutilized program that has been a very well-kept secret, and that I'm happy to help anybody that I can. I mean, there are other industries that are eligible, but not for both types of funding. The exceptions are you can't be a nonprofit, an educational facility, a government agency, or a casino or a point of sale retailer. So if you're not one of those and you're not one of the earlier ones, you can get technical skills training as an option. And all you have to do is give me a call, and I will be happy to walk you through it and answer any questions you have and confirm that you are eligible. And if you are, I'll be happy to get you started.
All right. Great. Well, Kristen, thank you so much for your time and for lending your expertise. I'm really excited to get this out to my network, and hopefully people will take advantage of this and start doing some really cool and innovative things at their companies.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and any chance to talk about WEDnet gets me very excited. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.